The president slammed his phone onto the resolute desk, the sharp sound echoing through the historic Oval Office and rattling the centuries-old wood. Frustration and disbelief were written all over his face as he tried to process the news that had just arrived. The room, usually filled with the hum of advisors and the quiet confidence of power, now felt tense and uncertain. "They can't do this to me, it's outrageous!" he shouted, his voice reverberating off the walls. The president, known for his brash confidence, was now visibly shaken, his anger barely concealing a growing sense of vulnerability. News had just reached the Oval Office. Canada and Qatar, two of the world's most influential oil producers, had made a bold move. In a stunning turn of events, they had effectively shut the United States out of their lucrative energy markets. The headlines flashed across every major network, and White House staff rushed in with urgent documents, confirming the worst. America's access to vital oil supplies was being cut off. This wasn't a military operation. There were no troops or tanks involved. Instead, it was a calculated economic maneuver, a sophisticated and targeted response to the president's aggressive trade policies. Economists watched in real time as market data shifted, oil prices spiked, and global trade routes began to realign. The world was witnessing a new kind of conflict, one fought not with weapons, but with economic leverage and strategic alliances. Trump, who had built his political brand on the promise of putting America first, now found himself facing the unintended consequences of his own actions. At rallies, he had promised to restore American greatness and bring jobs back home. But at international summits, his confident demeanor was replaced by visible concern, as allies questioned his leadership and adversaries sensed weakness. The trade war, which was supposed to revive American industry and protect workers, had instead led to factory closures and job losses across the country. Once bustling manufacturing towns now faced economic uncertainty, and headlines warned of a deepening crisis. The very people the president had vowed to help were now feeling the sting of his policies. Rather than bending to his will, America's allies and trading partners chose to retaliate. They forged new alliances, signed fresh energy agreements, and rerouted pipelines, shifting the balance of power in the global energy market. The world was moving on, leaving the United States isolated, and the president was left to grapple with the far-reaching consequences of his trade war. To truly understand the president's predicament, we need to look at the bigger picture of international trade and the complex decisions that leaders face every day. At the heart of global commerce are tariffs and trade wars, two concepts that shape the way countries interact and compete on the world stage. Grasping these basics is essential for understanding the challenges and strategies behind economic policy. In the simplest terms, a tariff is a tax that a government places on goods as they cross its borders, either coming into or leaving the country. These taxes can apply to a wide range of products, from electronics to clothing to raw materials. For example, if country A wants to shield its own industries from being undercut by cheaper imports from country B, it might decide to impose a tariff on those incoming goods. This policy is often justified as a way to protect local jobs and businesses. As a result, foreign products become more expensive for consumers in country A. This price difference encourages people to buy products made locally, supporting domestic manufacturers and workers. However, when one country imposes tariffs, it can trigger a chain reaction. A trade war begins when countries retaliate by slapping tariffs on each other's goods, escalating tensions and making international cooperation more difficult. Imagine a scenario where country A places tariffs on steel imports from country B, aiming to protect its own steel industry and workers. In retaliation, country B might respond by imposing tariffs on agricultural products from country A, targeting a different sector of the economy and trying to exert pressure in return. This tit-for-tat escalation can quickly spiral out of control, leading to higher prices, disrupted supply chains, and uncertainty for businesses and consumers alike. Ultimately, both sides can suffer, with small businesses closing, jobs lost, and everyday people feeling the impact at the checkout counter. Canada, America's neighbor to the north and a historically close ally, felt the heat of Trump's trade war early on. The president imposed tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum, claiming they were necessary to protect American jobs and national security. Canada, however, saw this as a betrayal of decades of economic cooperation. The Canadian economy, particularly its vital auto industry, suffered under the weight of these tariffs. American consumers faced higher prices on Canadian-made cars and parts, while Canadian businesses struggled to cope with the increased cost of exporting their products. The situation fueled resentment towards the United States and cast a long shadow over the once strong relationship between the two nations. The trade war with the United States marked a turning point for Canada, sending shockwaves through the country's economy and its political landscape. What began as a series of tariffs and retaliatory measures quickly escalated into a full-blown crisis, affecting industries from steel and aluminum to agriculture and manufacturing. This economic conflict coincided with a period of significant political change in Canada. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who had initially tried to negotiate with the Trump administration in hopes of preserving the close partnership between the two nations, soon found himself facing growing pressure at home, as opposition parties and citizens alike demanded stronger action and clearer leadership. Across the country, Canadians were increasingly frustrated by the mounting economic uncertainty. Businesses struggled to adapt, and families worried about their financial futures. Many Canadians, who had long viewed the United States as their closest ally, now felt a deep sense of betrayal and disappointment, questioning the reliability of their southern neighbor. As the trade war dragged on with no clear end in sight, its effects rippled through every corner of Canadian society, from small towns to major cities. The ongoing conflict quickly became a defining issue in Canadian politics, dominating headlines and sparking heated debates among politicians and the public alike. The upcoming federal election was shaping up to be more than just a routine vote. It was becoming a referendum on Trudeau's leadership, his government's response to the crisis, and the future direction of the country. Trudeau addressed the nation, defending his decisions and urging unity, while analysts debated whether his approach would be enough to restore confidence and stability. With the Canadian economy in a pretty precarious state, businesses and workers alike faced tough choices, and uncertainty loomed over the financial markets. Meanwhile, the relationship with the United States had reached a low point, with diplomatic tensions running high and negotiations stalling. The political landscape in Canada was more turbulent than ever, as the nation grappled with economic hardship, political division, and the challenge of redefining its place on the world stage. The trade war's impact extended far beyond tariffs and economic statistics. It strained diplomatic relations and forced countries to reevaluate their alliances. This was particularly evident in the global oil market, where the United States, Canada, and Qatar were all significant players. Oil, often called black gold, is a vital commodity, fueling transportation, industry, and economies worldwide. Control over oil production and distribution translates to significant political and economic power. As the trade war intensified, it upset the delicate balance of power in this crucial market. While Canada felt the immediate impact of the trade war, other countries were also taking notice. China, the world's second-largest economy, responded to U.S. tariffs with retaliatory measures of its own. The European Union, another crucial trading partner, also threatened to retaliate if the U.S. didn't back down. In the Middle East, countries like Qatar saw an opportunity in the chaos. As the U.S. retreated from its traditional role as a guarantor of stability and free trade, Qatar seized the chance to strengthen its ties with other nations. This included forging new partnerships in the energy sector and diversifying its own economy away from its reliance on the U.S. The trade war initiated by the Trump administration sent shockwaves through the global economy, particularly impacting the energy sector. It highlighted the interconnectedness of global trade and the delicate balance of power in the oil market. As countries re-evaluated their alliances and sought to secure their economic interests, the future of global trade remained uncertain. The situation served as a stark reminder that, in an interconnected world, economic aggression rarely produces winners. Instead, it often leads to retaliation uncertainty. and, honestly, a breakdown of trust between nations. The long-term consequences of Trump's trade war, particularly for the United States and its standing in the global economy, were yet to be fully realized.